Hello everybody, welcome. This is using QuickBooks Pro Advisor and Accountant tools to navigate making tax digital. I'm Ros Hodgson and you are very welcome. So I am the owner and director of BCAMS. We are an accounting and training company based in High Wycombe. I've been a QuickBooks certified trainer for the last 10 years, training internal, external teams, and when we could, going around the country, training accountants and bookkeepers, as well as training, obviously, for our firm as well. So our subject today then is how are we going to use QuickBooks, the Pro Advisor and the Accountant tools to navigate making tax digital. Right, well, let me start by saying right off the bat that I think making tax digital is a huge opportunity. Okay, so that's why it's the first thing on my agenda. And I just want to talk about that first. Now, I've been in the finance space for over 30 something years, coming up to 35 years, the last 20 years in private practice. And if you're anything like me, I've spent too many hours chasing paperwork, chasing documents, trying to get clients to comply so that we can help them stay compliant. MTD, Making Tax Digital, gives us a huge opportunity to say to our clients, right, this is the way that we will be doing things going forward. You have to send your documents on a monthly, quarterly basis for us to keep you compliant. So that's why I believe it's a huge opportunity. The next thing that I think, if you haven't already recognized, is that MTD means that you have to get to grips with the bookkeeping. Doesn't need to be you, but you need to decide on how as a firm you're going to embrace, should I say absolutely boss the bookkeeping. It's a must with MTD. So my role is to try and get you to embrace, love and boss the bookkeeping in the next 45 minutes that you're with me. Right, so where we're going to start then? We're going to start with looking at segmenting our client base, okay? First of all, you're going to understand what clients we have, not that you don't already know, but we want to be planning, okay? So we know the first phase, clients is over 85,000 VAT registered clients already filing through MTD. The next phase starting in April are the clients who are under 85,000 but are VAT registered. So that's one thing that you need to know. But stretching out for the next 2 years, who are you going to tackle next? Okay, so I'm going to look at how we can segment our client base using the client analysis tool. Okay. So you will find the tool in your accountant dashboard in the Pro Advisor section. And under software and services, you'll see there's a client analysis tool. And what you want to do is just select getting started. Okay. Now, what this client analysis is going to help you to understand is the start date, the month start date of all your clients, what industry type, what software they're currently using, and thinking ahead, April 2024, when all ITSA, income tax self-assessment clients, have to file through MTD. So it's going to tell you, are they landlords? Are they partnerships? Are they individual clients? Are they directors? Why is that important? Because it's important to help us plan. Now, who's going to do the bookkeeping and which clients are they going to do? So here are my thoughts. You might want to look, having done this, at all of your landlord clients who are due to come on board in the next 2 years. If you're a bookkeeper, you might go, right, I'm ready. I know the clients I need to start talking to. I need to start getting them ready to understand, am I going to be doing the bookkeeping? Are they going to be doing the bookkeeping? Do we need to get them onto QuickBooks? Do I need to get some training in place? If you're an accountant and you weren't doing bookkeeping and you don't want to be doing bookkeeping, you could say, well, I need to get a bookkeeper on board, or I need to outsource this to a bookkeeper who's competent and able and has the capacity to take on my landlord clients and just for me to review that data. This is why your client analysis tool is so important. It's really straightforward to use. You upload the data, it will review the data, and it will give you output that allows you to filter that information by company type, when is their start year, and you can hone in on what you need to do next. It's going to give you the output in graphs, but you can also download it to CSV. So that's where I would start, understanding who you've got to deal with in terms of clients and who is going to do the bookkeeping. Okay. Now, if you have any questions as I go through today, we are going to have a Q&A at the end. So you don't need to wait to the end. You can be posting your questions now, and at the end, I will review your questions. Okay. So step one, we know the clients that we're going to deal with. The next thing that we're going to talk about is looking at now a particular client. So you've taken on a client or a new client's come to you, or you've got a client that you're currently using and you are not currently doing bookkeeping, or perhaps you're not confident to price bookkeeping accordingly. Where do you start? Okay. So within QuickBooks, there is an accountant overview tool that I'm going to show you. And it's within the client overview section. And within that, we're going to look at how to assess a client for bookkeeping and to help you to price. We'll look at how the company's set up. We're going to look at the banking activity, any common issues, and the transactional volume. The reason why we're doing this is to scope the work. Okay, so I'm going to hop on over to QuickBooks and I'm going to take you through this particular tool. Great, so I've gone into QuickBooks. I've used my drop down here at the top and I've gone into the client we're going to look at today, which is Club Camera, my favorite client. Right, so where I'm going to take you is over into the over into the overview at the top. Now, this is about scoping the client. We absolutely want to have confidence that we can boss the bookkeeping, and part of that means getting the pricing right, so that we are not going to lose out, but we're keeping our clients compliant. So step one at the top here, we're going to look at this company setup. Now, if you take on a client who's already reusing QuickBooks, what you want them to do is to give you access even before you price. We do this so we can have a look around and see what actually needs to be done. The company setup is telling me what subscription they're using, whether that they haven't got MTD yet enabled. Okay, so we know that we need to bring them on board, but also really useful, what apps do they have connected? Now, if I, for example, saw here that they had Go Cardless, maybe they were using A2X, which is a connector tool that allows them to bring in data from Amazon or eBay. It tells me that perhaps sometimes it means it's great, there's some automation, but it can also mean that there is additional reconciliations to be done. The fact that these third-party apps bring the data in is fantastic. However, there needs to be some check-in. So you still also want to verify that the totals that you see in Shopify or Amazon are the totals that you see in QuickBooks, that it's dealing with the VAT correctly. And you're going to price for that accordingly. Okay, the next section is the banking activity. Okay, here I'm looking for the status of the books currently. Okay, why am I looking at that? Because I want to know when I'm pricing for bookkeeping, I'm also pricing for catch-up work and how much. This tells me the books have not been reconciled for over a year. So am I doing that work? Are the clients doing that work? And I need to quote for it. Okay. And then you can see all the bank accounts that they have, even their Shopify control account that's never been reconciled. So then moving on, we've got a summary of common issues. So here, I'm not so much considering the scope, but I'm considering the health of their books. Okay, these are your way of the analytics for the client. Okay, So are they using undeposited funds? Is it clear? Do they have uncategorized income and expense? Now, if you decide with this client, the client's going to do the books, perhaps there's some training needed because it's coming in from the bank feed and they're not always coding the transactions correctly. I'm looking at how old their debtors and creditors are, and the opening balance equity should be 0. And if it isn't, it's telling me that when this file was set up, either the opening balances have not been put in correctly, or, as I'm afraid commonly happens, perhaps they have an accountant who's doing the year end and the adjusting journals are not being sent back to the client books. Okay, so is this something that you need to price for to bring this client up to date? And then lastly, most importantly, when we're looking at bookkeeping for clients and you're looking at scoping and pricing the work, is understanding the transactional volume. For this client, I want to look at the last completed year. So I'm going back to 2020, back to the future, or maybe just back. Okay, so we're looking at the last fully processed financial year, and I can see that there were 1,077 bank transactions. So if I'm quoting them per month, I can see that we're talking about 90 transactions a month. Okay, what's your price structure for individual transactions? Okay, the next thing that I'm looking at is there are no invoices, but they are sales receipts. Okay, do I need to price for those accordingly? Okay, so I'm looking at the transactions that are going through and I'm building my price structure based on the past volume. Now I'm going to put a caveat in with the client because things may change in 2022 and it might be that we have to review that every 3 months or so. Okay, so this is where your client overview is really important in terms of scoping the work, particularly if this is a client that you've had, but you were never doing the bookkeeping. Okay, based on this, we still have decisions to make, right? Is the client going to do the work? And do we want to put in a review contract in there? Am I going to bring somebody in-house and employ them? Am I going to subcontract? Am I going to outsource? Which clients am I going to choose, or a hybrid of each? Okay, we actually have a hybrid of all of those solutions. Right, so that's the client overview, and we've scoped the client. The next thing that we're going to do is how do we get those processes in place so that either we or our bookkeeper can absolutely be the boss of this client's bookkeeping. So I'm going to take you to how you set that up next. Okay, so we've scoped the work. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to agree the processes required to actually start the bookkeeping on this client. Now, we're going to use the work tool, and we as a firm are totally process driven. There is no other way to stay on top of your bookkeeping than actually having great templates wherever you keep them to stay on top of those processes. Now, you might have your own practice management tool, and that's great. If you don't, I'm going to show you the work tool that we're going to use to scope or to set the processes. Even if you have a practice management tool, sometimes they're not very good at dealing with the detail that's required for bookkeeping. So in this work tool, I'm going to show you how to create templates, assign them to the staff, and allocate the task per client as well. So use the same template over and over again. All right. So let's go back into QuickBooks and we'll look at how that tool works. Okay. So we're back in our QuickBooks, but we're not going to do it within the client ledger. I'm going back out to the accountant tab because we want to set a template that we can use for more than one client. Absolutely loves time-saving tools when it comes to managing multiple clients. So this time on the left menu, I'm going to the work tab. The way that this works is we can create templates, and in order to assign them to clients, we create a project. Okay, so we go to manage templates. you can see there are some great defaults: client onboarding, the bookkeeping, the VAT returns, and one I prepared earlier. So let's look at my monthly bookkeeping. Okay, I'm going to go into edit so you can see exactly how I've set that up. So I've called it monthly bookkeeping. Of course, I want it to repeat. I'd tell it how often and what dates and for how many months. And then here are the tasks I've created. So I want, part of this role is to allocate the customer income, enter supplier payments, clear the bank feed, enter the bills and expenses. I want to have this moved up actually, because that's one of the first things that I want them to do. So you can see I can drag and drop and have it in whichever order I want. So let's start with entering, and then allocating. Okay, reconcile, clear the bank feed, reconcile the bank, miss the L off my journal, but then process the payroll. Okay, so go ahead and save that template. Now all I need to do is from this to create a project. And I would say it's QBC monthly bookkeeping. And then I can then determine which client it's for and also which bookkeeper it's also for. Now, if you're going to give access to other bookkeepers, if you're going to subcontract the bookkeeping, even if you're a bookkeeper, you save this. You can do that over here by just adding them to your team and just giving them access to the clients that you want them to work on. So how does that look? So now as a bookkeeper, I log in and I can see here, today I was supposed to enter the bills and expenses for this client and allocate the income. Okay, then I can clear the bank feed and do all these other things as well. Okay, so it's a way for you to be clear about the processes that you require before you go to review the books. Okay, so using the work tool, we can create templates. We can assign the templates to clients and to other bookkeepers and other staff. Fantastic. So now that we've done that, we've assigned the work. One other thing, you can be specific. So for example, when it comes to dealing with reconciling the creditors, I just want to show you this. I've just put a few other things in here that are very particular, because I am particular, that I want my staff to do. I want you to make sure that all payments are allocated, that you've reviewed over 90 days, you've reviewed any major accounts, etc. Okay, so I'm going to come out of here, and the next thing I want to talk about is how you review that work to make sure that it's quality work. Right, so I have called this section Reviewing and Trusting the Numbers. So important, and we're going to use the accounting review tool to do that. Now, within the accounting review tool, we're going to look at the book review first. We're going to check the transactions, we're going to look at the reconciliations, and then we're going to do a final review. Okay, so we're now looking at how are we going to review and trust the numbers. So important. Our bookkeeper's done all of the work. We need to review. If you're going to outsource, whether you're going to outsource, whether you're going to subcontract, whether it's going to be internal staff, there has to be a check-in process. We're going to do that using the accounting review tool. And that tool within Books Review is going to allow us to look at the transactions, look at the reconciliations, and then do a final review of the numbers. Okay, so let's go back over to QuickBooks and look at how we do that. Okay, we're back in QuickBooks. We're still in the work section, so let's just hop back into our client file. We've got to the end of a quarter, of that quarter. In a couple of years' time, your MTD quarter, you need a process for reviewing. Bookkeeper sends you a note, however you're going to do that, to say the books are ready to review. So over on the left, I'm going to go into the accounting review and the books review. Absolutely love this tool. Which period am I going to review first? So I'm going to change this to last year and December and apply. So 3 tabs, look at the transactions, the reconciliations, and the final review. So the first thing I can see here, before you start, make sure your books are up to date, right? So have you cleared the bank fees? If you haven't, I've got nothing to review. They haven't. There are 35 items left in here. Now, I would expect this to show waiting. Possibly they're waiting for the client to come back with some paperwork, okay? Let's say that they've now cleared it, the client's come back, they've excluded the items, they're already in. I'm going to change this. You can see they can update it as to do. Now, ideally, it's a bit like school, right? Check your own work. What you want is to be notified to come in here, if you're the checker, when the work is done. And you want to come in and just see green ticks to tell you everything is done, okay? If you're the bookkeeper, this could actually be part of your month-end process. So the open issues here are there any uncategorized transactions? Are there transactions where you've not stipulated the payee? We want that tidied up, and you want to be clear very early on with your conversations, if you're subcontracting, that this is part of the scope, that we're going to have clean, tidy books. Okay. Then checking that the undeposited funds, that can sometimes trip you up in terms of depositing client funds. You don't want any duplications. And then are there any unapplied payments? Now, if you've got payments on account, they will be in here. Okay. But that's why the memo is there to tell you it's a payment on account. Otherwise, you're expected to be allocated. Now, here is where the secret sauce is to boss in the bookkeeping on this. This to-do checklist, you can totally customize, okay? And you can have it take you to the transactions that you want to do. Let me show you, okay? So firstly, I don't want record cash transactions on here. I'm going to delete it. What I do want is to remind me, I'm doing the bookkeeping, to post the payroll journal every month. So what I can do, I'm going to duplicate my tab because that makes it easier. I'm going to go to my accountant tools and I'm going to open a new window. So in this window, I'm actually going to my payroll journal and I have one already saved in my recurring transactions. Here it is. And I'm going to go into use as though I'm about to post my payroll. Really useful if you do journals over and over again to save them as recurring. And now all I need to do is to copy the link up on the URL link at the top. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to go back into my accounting review. So I'm going to add to my checklist. And I'm going to post this link here where it says QuickBooks page link. I'm going to tell this is monthly payroll. My journal is payroll journal 001 and post from payroll provider. Okay, so they're going to send that to me, assuming you're not using payroll from within QuickBooks, and save. What that means is that at month end, as the bookkeeper, I come in here and go, I have to review the loan payments. I also have to post the payroll journal. I click on the link, takes me straight into the payroll template, which I can then post. Okay, so again, process. You want to set up this accounting review at the very beginning. You've agreed the scope. Let's say I'm outsourcing this. I've agreed the scope and I've said to my bookkeepers, here is what I want you to do. Do the bookkeeping, post the payroll journal and the depreciation every month. So I'm going to set this up here so that they don't forget to post it. Okay. Just go back to last year. Okay. So it doesn't get forgotten to post that journal. Once they're done, they say done. When I come here, I'm expecting to see green ticks everywhere. The next step is the account reconciliation. Very similar, but this time, as you would imagine, it's going to show you whether the banks have been reconciled and when. It's going to, and just note that you can choose which banks you want to see. If you've got other balance sheet accounts, we do reconcile the VAT suspense, the VAT control, and the payroll liabilities, and sometimes if we've got commission accounts, etc. Then you have any outstanding transactions, any additional items. But this really is about making it your own per client. You'll notice in this one under additional items, I want to check that the net wages balance is 0. This time, the link that I created was a URL to a report. Okay. So when I run this one, just come here. It's going to take me straight to a report that I previously saved that is from the balance sheet, and it's my net wages, tells me my balance isn't 0. Okay. So the final review, same principle. This time it's letting you review the debtors and the creditors. Still, you have a checklist that you can curate for the reports that you want to check. This is a huge game changer in terms of being able to outsource your payroll and have a master checklist, and you set the criteria of what you want to see and what has to be completed and when, or use it as a bookkeeper to just know that you're on top of things for your client. Remember, you already have for VAT, under taxes, you already have this great error checker. Okay, if you've not seen that before, I'm in taxes and here I can error check my VAT return. Fantastic. Okay, so that's going to look particularly from a VAT point of view. Okay, so we've bossed the bookkeeping. We absolutely have. We're checking quarterly, monthly, whatever you want to do. Last thing that we want to nail is our year end. So we want to shorten those year ends because they're going to come round thick and fast. We want to be able to nail them within 3 months. So now I'm going to show you how you can do that. So the last element then is how can you have confidence that you can have clean and quick year ends? And what is this work papers tool and how is it going to help you? Okay. So the work paper tools is going to help you with your year-end tasks. Remember I said it's all about processes. It's going to help you file those or keep those year-end documents, how we're going to review and adjust our books, and what tools do we need to use to lock our periods, group our statements, etc. So for the last time, back over to QuickBooks. All right, so we're in QuickBooks. And we're still in our accounting review and books review. And now we're going to go to work papers. Now, work papers, accountants out there, you'll be accustomed to work papers. They're your year-end schedules where you have all the backup and the detail in terms of your documents, the accounts before you send them to Companies House HMRC. So how we're going to use this now, these work papers are not going to allow you to file them directly with HMRC or Company House. You could use them as your backup schedules. You can put your references and everything in here. Absolutely, you can do that. But here's where I want to suggest a really great use from a bookkeeping point of view. Okay, 4 tabs: year-end tasks, our documents, review and adjust, grouping, and statements. So here's how I recommend using this, okay? The year-end tasks, fantastic tool, just as we've done before, to create a process that's just for year-end, okay? It comes pre-populated, book the tax provision, etc. But I've added some bookkeeping tasks up here at the top. So step 1, I'm going to request the stock take. I'm going to attach the closing bank statement if I'm not doing the final accounts. I'm going to do the year-end bank reconciliation, etc. Okay. So once I have requested the stock take, I tick it as done. But I can also go across to documents. You can see here I said I need to attach the closing bank statements. I'm able to go across to documents. Now in the documents tab, it will have all of the balance sheet accounts and all of the P&L accounts. Okay. So when I'm going to attach the bank statements, I'm able to go here, and I've only got one business bank account. I can select add, and I can update my documents, and here is my document attached within my business bank account. So all the accountant needs to do is to go and to download that bank statement from here. Within general, you can create your own folders. So I've created my own year-end workflow. Okay. So this is my own year-end client review. Okay. And where I'm saying that here's where I'm going to put the accountant notes. Here's where I'm going to put any additional bookkeeping schedules. The beauty with this one is I can attach external schedules. So one of the things that we do is we have a full schedule on, we use Google Sheets. It's just an example, one of our master documents. And this is a template for our fixed asset schedules. You can see all the tabs at the other things that we have at the bottom. What does that mean? It means that the accountant can go straight here and get the backup to everything else in terms of the working schedules as well. Okay, fantastic. Okay, this is a game changer. You just need to follow the process. Okay, so once you've done all your bookkeeping year-end tasks, you've uploaded all the documents. This is where, if you're doing the final accounts on here, but even if you aren't, if I'm the bookkeeper and my scope has been some of the balance sheet items, I can come in here and go, yeah, I have reconciled the bank and I've updated and uploaded. You can see here, it knows that there's an attachment associated with this. Okay. But also it's recognized that I also updated the stock take here. I can tick to say that when I've finished. I can even do my adjusting journals from here, which simply takes you through to an actual journal entry, which is ticked as an adjusting entry. So it's working as an extended or adjusted trial balance as well. Okay. You've got lots of other facilities on here. You can look at grouping if you want to have a display of your accounts in a different order. I know sometimes the client wants them looking one way, the accountant has them looking a different way. You want at the year end to check they agree in either format. Okay. You've got additional tools. You can download all of it into a zip file. You've got a carried forward feature when you're moving on. I recommend that you actually lock the accounts before when you're starting this, so that nobody's changing the numbers as you go. You can do that from here as well. Okay. So this is a great tool. I really recommend that you take the time to explore it, but this is going to help you absolutely nail MTD, those year ends. Make sure when you're working, if you're the bookkeeper, that, if you're working a bookkeeper and you want to work with an accountant, you want to emphasize how tight a ship you keep, if you like, and that you absolutely do boss your bookkeeping. If you're an accountant and you're looking to work with your internal team or an external team, you want to make sure these processes are in place. So I hope you found that useful. Again, this is the time if you've got any questions to ask them. I'm going to go over now to the Q&A and we're going to look at some of those questions. But remember, you can absolutely boss your bookkeeping. Use the tools that you've got in QuickBooks so you can absolutely trust your numbers. So thank you for joining me. Let's hop over to the Q&A and we'll answer some of your questions.